Business on the programme now. Yuka Roya is joining me here in the studio. Yuka, starting really with our top story, I suppose. The US President Donald Trump talking business as well as North Korea with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping.
Well, Stuart, President Trump has routinely slammed China's trade practices, calling the country a currency manipulator and blaming it for the loss of millions of manufacturing jobs in the United States. In Beijing, though, the president complained about the $350 billion annual US trade deficit with Beijing, but also said that he blames someone else, not China, for that. Take a listen.
Right now, unfortunately, it is a very one-sided and unfair one. But I don't blame China. Who can blame a country for being able to take advantage of another country for the benefit of its citizens? I give China great credit. But in actuality, I do blame past administrations for allowing this out-of-control trade deficit to take place and to grow.
Chinese President Xi Jinping, meanwhile, said China was willing to expand imports on things like energy products.
And of course, the US delegation taking home some huge business deals here as well.
Well, around 30 business leaders are accompanying President Trump on this trip. The two leaders were attending a signing ceremony of business deals worth around $250 billion. These include a $37 billion agreement for China to buy 300 Boeing aeroplanes. US semiconductor giant Qualcomm has signed a $12 billion worth of potential deals with 3 Chinese mobile phone makers. And China's biggest online retailer also agreed to buy $1.2 billion worth of American beef and pork. Now let's take a look at the stock markets now. Trading just got off to a rather weak start here in Europe, with London's FTSE, Paris's CAC 40 and Germany's DAX all opening in the red, as you can see. In Asia, Japan's Nikkei surged 2%, hitting a near 26-year high, but fell back into negative territory in later trading.
Let's turn to Europe now on the programme. A 6th round. Can you believe we've got to 6 rounds now of Brexit talks are set to start today? Again, expectations, they're not very high, are they?
Well, there's very little hope of a breakthrough as the EU and UK negotiators sit down for a new round of negotiations. It's the first since EU leaders warned the British Prime Minister Theresa May in October that Britain had made insufficient progress to move on from divorce issues to discussions of a future trade deal. The EU demands progress on 3 key divorce issues: money, that's the UK's commitment to the EU budget, the Irish border, and the rights of EU citizens in Britain, and I guess vice versa. Meanwhile, Europe has outlined tougher limits on car emissions as it tries to pressure manufacturers to set up production of electric and hybrid vehicles. The aim is to curb greenhouse gases while competing with China in the race to build the next generation of cars. Emmanuel Maxwell explains.
It's a plan designed to put the European car industry back on track.
Europe has fallen behind in the global clean vehicle race. We will lose technological leaders if clean vehicles in the United States, Japan and China keep accelerating away from us. And let us look at the facts. Europe is currently not in the right track.
The EU is calling for cars to emit 30% less of CO2 by 2030 compared with 2021 levels, with fines of €95 for every gram of CO2 above the limit. Facing potential fines in the millions of euros, car makers are calling the 30% target overly challenging, and with an eye on its most important industry, Germany is also objecting to the plan on the grounds that it will threaten growth and jobs. Environmentalists, on the other hand, say the proposals are just a first step and that the auto industry needs to catch up.
Take this as an opportunity and reinvent yourself, and let's make that shift to electric vehicles that run on renewable energy rather than fossil fuels.
The Commission is also set to earmark money towards battery development and charging points for electric vehicles. But the new targets still have to be approved by the European Parliament and all 28 member states.
Emma Maxwell reporting there. Now, finally, from Yuka, a bit of a bumpy start here for a driverless shuttle in Las Vegas.
A bumpy start indeed. The self-driving car is made by a French company called Navia and made its debut on Las Vegas street, but it had a minor crash with a semi-truck less than 2 hours later. Police said the human behind the wheel of the truck was at fault. The shuttle's sensors worked and it did stop, but the truck didn't. No one was injured. The minibus has no steering wheel or brake pads, pedals, and it's designed to carry 12 people. It has a maximum speed of 45 kilometers per hour, but it's intended to run at a much lower speed. Passengers say they enjoyed the ride in the driverless car.
Oh, it's very smooth, and it's very interesting. When somebody would walk out, a pedestrian would walk out, it would stop right on a dime, very suddenly. So a pedestrian doesn't have too much worries if it comes out in front of me, so it would stop just like that.
Yeah, very smooth indeed. It's always the human's fault, though, isn't it?
It is.
You go right with Business on France 24.